afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum with me, your host, Imperial Dane. We are off here to have a look at the rotational commanders available here, since, well, you know, that's so far the only way I'm going to have a look at them with my luck. And we are first looking here at the American Rifle Commander, an extremely strong commander, very solid, just recently nerfed, so it's a lot less overpowering right off the bat, which was really one of the initial issues with it. It basically offers you sort of initial veteran rifleman already there, and that's all really part of, you know, the start of this doctrine, almost immediately available. There's a sort of initial cooldown period now before you can sort of call them in. Costs a bit more than regular rifleman, but on the other hand, you'll pretty much have a chance of getting anything but around Veterans E1, maybe a little less than that, to Veterans E2 rifleman straight off the bat, and usually it can even sort of be like just a shot more here and there, and then it's hit Veterans E2 right off the bat, so that way you can generally very quickly sort of get some much stronger troops out on the field, which of course allows you to sort of initially get an advantage, though again not as quickly as it used to be, which was part of the problem, particularly because it also meant even though training time you could easily flood the field as well, not just with raw riflemen but trained riflemen, which was really quite the headache. So of course less overpowering that, but still it also gives you a late game advantage as well, and that to an extent it mitigates one of the disadvantages of the American, which again you sort of, you know, having to replenish all those lost troops. I mean, the Americans are a bit more hurt to a certain extent by attrition again due to their higher squad costs, but again with, you know, the veteran riflemen, you can just call in fresh veteran riflemen, and that way you are less hurt than any other army. Even one that has the elite troops is there, which of course can train the troops as well, but they have to pay manpower and fuel at quite the premium. Here you just pay 20 more manpower. So there's definitely a noticeable difference there in terms of, you know, strength and how much you're getting out of it. In that regard, you know, already here just going for that one, you get some noticeable strengths, and again you can sort of cover up one of the American weaknesses in terms of a longer game. Then you get Rifleman Flares, a sort of nifty little bit. It's a bit expensive, but overall I sort of do a bit of reconnaissance without having to say peek your head in and get it shot off. So in that regard, not bad. Then you get Flamethrowers for them at 3 points. Again, very strong as well. Allows you to burn your way through. Basically has a 5-man flamethrower unit, not bad. Again, also very strong. Probably say all the veteran riflemen, and that can really do some nasty work there for you. In particular, say also if you have smoke grenades, you can pop them off, then close in with a rifleman and clear up the defenders. Overall, offers up for sort of nasty things, and then you get the 6 command points of White Phosphorus Smoke Barrage, a nasty ability as well. Sort of makes other incendiary abilities look a bit silly. I mean, it's sort of a mix of smoke, but also basically things that hurt your opponent's troops. I believe it also, in fact, ensures tanks can't fire in it. That might be slightly wrong there. There's a bit of all these smoke abilities and such. This is a bit hard to keep track of, so my memory might be slightly phosphorus there. But now, sort of it damages troops. It can't actually kill them, I believe, but can render them pretty much a state where, say, someone sneezing at them might kill them. So I mean, it's overall, it's a bit of a nasty ability in that regard. It's not saying incendiary barrage, but it's pretty close. It can really sort of mess up things for your opponent. It's also not that expensive either, so a few well-placed white phosphorus smoke barrages can be used to, for example, mess up your opponent's infantry positions as they cover up for an assault. So not bad. And then we sort of come to the second part, which is also a pretty handy part here, the M4A3E8 or Sherman EZ8. A sort of up gun and also slightly up armored Sherman, in fact, at a reasonable price even. We're talking about slightly more than a Panzer IV, and you get a pretty solid piece of armor. With a good penetration, good damage, can get rid of the 50 cal, of course also has the smoke. It doesn't have high explosive armor piercing rounds like the regular Sherman, otherwise I mean that it has the veterans ability as well, so very nasty, and a lot of players tend to just, you know, just rely on calling it in. In that regard, this is a very strong commander, very versatile to a certain extent, though perhaps not quite as versatile in some regards, but again very strong, and a very popular commander, in particular now that it's off for free. So I mean, if you feel like you're using it, then again, you know, give it a try right now. That's certainly one thing, but otherwise, you know, if you like it, buy it, or hope you get it. But otherwise, it's certainly one I can easily recommend to most American players to actually purchase if they feel like, you know, luck's not quite with them in the war spoils, then get it. I mean, you're not going to be disappointed unless you somehow manage to use it very poorly, and in that case I think then it's on your shoulders. That's rather the Rifle Commander. Then we move on to the Oberkommando West Commander here, offered at the moment the Elite Armored Doctrine. Now, this one's not really that outright strong. In fact, I would probably describe to a certain extent as a bit one of the weaker of the Oberkommando West commanders, if maybe not the weakest in a certain extent. It has a few problems. In part, I mean, you get a sort of lots of interesting abilities. You get signal relay, which allows you to sort of see vehicles on the minimap. That's not bad. The problem is it costs a lot more than any other similar ability for any other army, which then all of a sudden makes you wonder, well, that's no good now, is it? And then you get emergency repairs. It allows you to sort of quickly fix any sort of criticals on any, say, damaged vehicles, though it also apparently makes the crew very vulnerable, which could mean you make, say, one shot, then it's cleared out, which rather puts it rather differently, say, to the Soviet equivalent, which I think is also cheaper, does full repairs, and doesn't involve units getting wiped out. So it's a bit more... it's a bit of an awkward ability, really. I mean, it's good to have something that could sort of quickly clear out a critical, but it takes 15 seconds, so it's not very practical either in that regard. It's a bit sort of hard to sort of put it on, unless of course you somehow find yourself just with 15 seconds very quickly get it sort of fixed, where you might end up in a situation where you need it fixed. And then you get the high explosive anti-tank heat shells. Basically increases your penetration, I believe, and the range of the tank, though it seems to constantly be shifting. At least that's my memory of it, so a bit hard to say. But overall, that definite penetration there, and of course it pretty much sort of applies to a lot of your things. Pumas, Yak Panzer IVs, Panthers, Panzer IVs, I think even the King Tiger. The problem is just sort of, pointing out most of the units really won't need it. I mean, the Puma, yes, will need it, but then again, and this is going to sort of be part of the other part of the commander, so I'll just sort of say that. But I mean, you'll be spending a lot of fuel on that, and then you might not say how many fuel to spend on the other part, which you might be once reason against the veteran Panzer IVs. It's the same, if you go for any other things in part there, but also because, for example, with the Panther, I mean, they're not going to do anything. If you all have any Panther, you'll pretty much have something that doesn't need heat rounds. Same with the King Tiger and with the Yak Panzer IV. Well, I really wouldn't recommend getting it, particularly because again that would further hurt getting, say, some Panzer IVs out. Then you get the Panzer Commander. 30 munitions sort of allows you to sort of see further. Not bad. You can call in artillery barrages, which sounds really nice. Costs 130 munitions, and it's not really good, I believe. It's actually a pretty poor barrage, which then is also a bit expensive, so it's not really recommendable. They can still, the Panzer Commander still will increase line of sight. It's not a bad idea, and then say unlike spotting scopes, he can do this while moving around in the tank, so that's great. Then you sort of come to sort of the start of this commander, this doctrine, and that's the veteran Panzer IV battle group. Now this one's a bit interesting. It basically allows you to call in 2 Panzer IVs and their veteran. I believe it can sort of range between veterans E1, veterans E0 actually, and I believe veterans E4. Though that might have been changed again. They sort of keep changing these things sort of slightly, but overall, sort of that's the range, I believe, which all means you can sort of get some very nasty Panzer IVs in that regard. Some slight details, though, they do have less armor than the Wehrmacht Panzer IVs, so that's one thing. Secondly, they don't get armored skirts. You have to purchase them separately for 80 munitions, though that's not half bad. So that means, if you just start out with some regular Panzer IVs, then you can upgrade them, immediately get an armor upgrade up for them. So not bad, though, not bad. They're themselves quite effective. The thing is that they're quite expensive. And they cost 720 manpower and 210 fuel, which almost puts them in the same price range as a King Tiger. And here's sort of another issue with the commander. You're pretty much forced to go for the Schwere Panzer headquarters. And again, you can't really rely on Sturm Pioneers and Volksguns. You're really pretty much forced to go with Obersoldaten as things currently stand, because this commander offers no infantry to sort of, provide a bit of a support there. So in that regard, there's a few headaches there. Which, of course, when you then have to go for the Schwere headquarters, then you also have less fuel to, say, get for that. So it's a bit of an awkward position, and overall this command is a bit awkward, which overall makes me hesitant to recommend it. The Panzer IV battle group is actually pretty solid. It can do a lot of damage, certainly, but at the same time, at this stage where you get it, it might be a bit too late. And so again, the rest of the commander up till that stage can't really help you much. So again, there's a few headaches. There's a bit of a commander that has some issues again. In part, I think it's overall because a lot of the abilities are simply too expensive, I would say. And even then, the Panzer IV battle group was previously a bit more cheap in terms of fuel. I think that was actually sort of more right fuel spot for the 180 fuel. if I were to say so myself, because again, you know, Oberkommando fuel is always more precious, so that was something to keep in mind. Then it's certainly also put sort of a bit hard to sort of put in competition with a Panther, though at the same time, I mean, if you choose them over a Panther, you will get a lot more firepower, though a lot less penetration. And with the upgrade, you can sort of almost get the same level of armor. Almost. So it's not all bad. So I mean, those are rather the things. Again, it's not a fully strong commander. And again, a lot of the abilities, they do sort of feel a bit lacking, a bit awkward. But again, the Panzer IV battle group is sort of alright. It's kind of cool, I'll admit it, but it's certainly one I see rarely, and most players I see end up going for some other command to sort of get something to stabilize the earlier game of the Oberkommando is still currently a bit troubled. So there you go. A part of me would really like to see some other ability replaced with something a bit more useful, though that might never happen. But there you go. Again, I can't fully easily recommend this commander at the moment. I wish I could, but I mean, it's sort of just hampered by the fact that the Oberkommando is hammered by some issues here and there, so it's a bit tricky. But again, you know, the Panzer IV battle group, if you ever do get the chance of calling in, generally tends to be worth it. So it's, again, it's not a bad commander, it's just, I would say, more weak. It has a lot of issues, it has a lot of problems, and again, it can sort of be easily sort of held back, I think. So there you go. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from it. I hope it got you some ideas to, you know, get these commanders, or maybe how to use them, or maybe how to deal them. Again, you know, elite armored, interesting in some regards, but you know, too much munition. Some of the abilities are a bit wonky, and a part of me, you know, again feels the Panzer battle group might be a bit overpriced in some regards. A part of me would just like to, you know, be able to call them in one at a time, but then maybe slightly, you know, another sort of price level. Of course, that's just me though. But anyways, this is Imperial Lane saying cheers, thanks for watching, and, you know, keep watching. Bye.